Um, all right. So, hey, everybody, welcome and good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are. And it's great to have everybody here. So we're with the All Things Change and the Change Handbook now, the Collaborative Change Library and the Collaborative Change Handbook. And we have a community of people over the last, since way back when in the 2000s, some of us have been connected since way back in the 2000s around this work around collaborative change. And so our purpose for today and what we are gathering, and so glad to see everybody, this is a thought leader learning community. This is for people, for us to come together and support each other, to help each other, to be a safe place to share. I'm recording this because I do want to share it for others who couldn't be here and for others in the world who may benefit from our conversation. If anybody has something that they want to share that is personal and you want to just have us talk about it, you just say pause. We pause the recording and we have a conversation, and then we'll come back and unpause. The recording is intended to be shared, and for us to model conversation, support, intimacy, for people to learn, because all of you that are a part of this are thought leaders. You're creating content, scalable ways that help others. So I always like to say it's making a difference while you sleep is the way I think about it. Passive difference making, like passive income, making money while you sleep. This is passive difference making and supporting each other in that good work. So, yeah. And today, Teo, you can put into the chat the link to the slides. In that way, we can keep the screen nice and open for all of us to talk to each other and see each other. And then I'll share screens if we need to. Yeah, and so the agenda is pretty straightforward. One is checking in. What's exciting in your world? What's going on with you? Where do you need work, help, support? What would you like to share with us? Anything that helps you in what you care about. That's really the bottom line. And so we can all check in and have a chance to check in around that. Second thing is then a focused conversation around a couple things. One of the things we want to talk about is the All Things Change podcast series and how we can leverage each other's work. Uh, some of you have podcasts or other ways, but how can we support each other in our community around podcasts and other types of things? And maybe getting you all to be featured on future All Things Change podcasts or webinars and some of the symposia with Bowling Green State University as well. And the last thing is we want to talk about is our platform around NoBits. We talked a little bit about, we were pretty quick, but we want to put out there some things that we're thinking about around the open source place for people to share what they know around NoBits and how it can be a place that we can do some really neat work and things within the world around it to help others. So with that, I'll just pause or stop and turn it over to somebody who would like to go first. And what I'd like to do is have you go first and then pick someone to go next and just share with us anything you'd like to share, and even up to a question if you need. Yeah. So Dave. Yeah.
Yeah, there's two interesting things that occur at this moment. One is that my chapter, uh, called An Imagined Conversation with Peter Vale, a thought leader, has just been completed, and I get it'll appears in the CCL as we speak, or soon will, right, CEO?
It's there now. I'll put the link in the chat.
Okay, and I therefore thank Carol, who's here, because she was the one who found me wandering in the wilderness and said, "Wouldn't you like to write a chapter for the collaborative change?" And she led me to this point, and I'm serious. It was about it's at least 2 or 3 years since, as that was between us, always saying, let's finish this chapter. In the meantime, we got to be really great friends. The other is that I put out in my podcast called the Practice Podcast, I put out a note today, a personal note, that it was exactly 4 years ago, November 2018, that Peter Vale reached out to me through his daughter Emily and asked if I could take over with him the manuscript that he had worked on for 10 years while he was fighting the various problems related to his paralysis. And he couldn't quite finish it, and he was in hospice. So what was I going to say? No to my former teacher and old friend? No, I won't help you. I said yes. And for 4 years, it's basically transformed my retirement phase. When I left professorship after years and years and years, what was I going to do? Well, I know what I did for the last 4 years. I worked on the podcast, then the book, in my library called Practice as a Way of Being. And there's several people on the screen to thank for that. The book exists now, and we're adding, the next feature will be waffles, and we're waffling as we head toward Christmas. So yeah, it's a big day, and I thank Steve for putting all of us together in the first place. And I'm glad to be among the authors for the jam.
And Dave, what you're talking about in the waffle, I don't think, I'm not sure if people know what you mean by that, is for every bit of knowledge that's in the book on practicing, which you could call chapters, they each have a waffle where you can click and you can see videos, links to websites, and additional information that you can attach. So you're just building out and adding more content to each of the knowledge bits that you have in your book.
Yeah, expands the reader's experience beyond what any paper book on a shelf can do, which I think is a tremendous feature for any of our chapters.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Do you want to pick someone to go next?
Yeah, let's go with John.
I want to very briefly share
Hey, John.
what the guys were talking about. If you see the screen share, here is Birgit's chapter, and if you click on the so-called waffle, because it looks like a waffle iron, that's what our development guys call it, you can see video content, for example. You can see links, additional resources, and so forth. That's what the waffle is.
Yeah, it's a wonderful aspect of the book. John, what do you got?
Very cool. Morning, Dave. Well, thank you. Let's see what's going on. Just getting ready to head out on a week-long trip to cover a variety of things, everything from training to starting to kick off a large-scale change initiative in Chicago, helping one of my customers with a hiring decision. So just running strong, getting ready to hit the ground running next week. And trying to get ready for what's going to be a long January, February, March time on the road too. So just putting into practice a lot of the OD skill set here over the next 6 months. So looking forward to it. Hopefully a little bit of time to relax around the holiday, the Thanksgiving holiday and the Christmas and New Year. But yeah, just getting energized for all that.
So how much traveling will you be doing?
Pardon me?
How much traveling will you be doing?
Well, I'll be on the road all next week. I'll be on the road again about a week later than that. And then back on the road from January 10th, 9th, all the way through till mid-March. Seriously on the road.
Wow.
Not home. So
how do you stay healthy doing all that travel? Is there a like your top 3 do's and don'ts when you're traveling?
Well, no. Fortunately I get a chance to occasionally stay at a friend's home somewhere along the way, but it is hard. Go for walks and try to eat as healthy as you can, but that is hard. That is hard. I will say the physical side takes its toll because there's a lot of sitting, but during the day it's a lot of facilitation, standing, walking around. That nervous tension that we get as facilitators seems to keep the heart rate up pretty far. So, but
Gotcha.
I do not have any good advice. Maybe that's a good chapter for the book.
I was gonna say, that's a great podcast at least, John.
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah, that could be a
patient.
really good podcast. Yeah,
would,
that
Yeah,
could, I'd have to think about
Notes from
it
the
a little
road.
bit.
We should
Yeah,
do it.
and
Yeah,
anybody that knows me would
we should
probably-
title it "On the Road Again."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just
well,
do, you know,
Willie Nelson of
on the
OD.
road again, and then like just talk about best practices for keeping sane and healthy. When
Yeah.
doing a lot of travel for
right.
work.
Well, I will say it takes a good spouse. There's no doubt about that. Unfortunately, I think it also takes the fact that I don't have kids at home anymore. So, and it's all about outsourcing the home maintenance, the yard mowing, the driveway plowing, the leaf raking. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of that. So,
Yeah,
which I find therapeutic. Honestly, I find that kind of
right.
therapeutic. So I miss it, and at the same time, though, it's got to be done because the wife's got to get to work, and you know, so right now, actually, this has been the week of preventative maintenance. So I had my electrician come in, go through the house. I had the plumber come in, go through the house. I had the furnace AC guy come in, go through the house. Actually have the furnace guy coming back tomorrow because he found something that was wrong. So, it's kind of like get all that stuff done and get it all preventatively managed. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, nothing will happen.
All right, gotcha. Well, I hope it all works out.
Oh,
And if you're like, if you ever now, I'm trying to remember where you're living now. Where are you?
I'm up
where are
in
you?
Brighton, so I'm
Okay.
still about an hour and a half from you. So
Gotcha. Okay, I didn't
yeah, if
remember
I pass
you moved.
through that way, I'll definitely knock on your door. It might be 2
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning, Steve. But
If you needed something closer, like here, that'd be fine. Totally.
yeah. No, fortunately, it'll be Florida, East Coast, and I'm off to. I have these wonderful, metropolis areas that I get to go to with my business. I'll be in Pratt, Kansas, and Buckland, Kansas, and Hoxie, Kansas, and so not very big places with not a whole lot of options relative to hotels.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
but it's fun. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
John has thought of represents perhaps thousands of OD practitioners who couldn't be out on the road during the pandemic or very little on the road.
yeah.
And nor were businesses in place very much at the same time. So now people are back in place somewhat. And now we're bringing out the OD change agents. And we're hearing the reality, that they're not just doing fantastic things out in the various conference rooms and places where they do the work, but they also have homes to maintain and spouses and kids and others to look after. It's a sacrifice. So
Yeah, it
yay
is.
for the people who take our theories and put them to work out there, and safe travels.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Well, John,
let's
pick
go
someone
with-
to go next. Yeah.
Bridget,
Forget.
sorry, I caught you in the middle of a coffee sip. I did that on purpose.
I have 3 things that I would like to talk about, and one is, and this is a little promo that I didn't intend to do, but at the end of this month, for 4 consecutive Fridays, our team, myself included, is conducting a workshop online called Individual Health and Balance. So you might understand why I'm doing this promo right at this particular moment, John.
Forget. Can you put the link? Can you put a link to it in the
I
chat?
will do-
I got
will
it.
do
I got
that.
it. Way ahead of you guys.
Awesome.
Well, but it's doing as much preventative work on self as what John described doing for his house, and so anyway, it's great. The second topic that I wanted,
Forget. Can I ask you a quick question?
sure,
Can I post that to our university doctoral program community?
absolutely, I'd be
Yeah.
delighted.
Yeah, I'm going to post it right now while we're sitting here. I'm
Yeah,
just going to invite people to
it's-
take a look at it. Okay.
Great, thanks. A second topic that I wanted to talk about has to do with a decade-long journey that I've had with my husband, who I admire greatly. And 10 years ago, he had a massive cerebral hemorrhage followed by some brain surgery that left some challenges, many of which he has overcome as he has built new neural pathways. So it's been quite a story, but the part I wanted to mention is how much we have learned about the difference between the brain and the mind. So, when he was in the process of having this cerebral hemorrhage, which was on the way back from Belgium, during international travel, he remained conscious through the entire experience. He wasn't supposed to be conscious. But what he did, and he's really quite a unique person, he understood that his brain was in trouble. So he took his mind and he put his mind over his left shoulder and he operated his consciousness from that place that was over his left shoulder. And the only moment in the midst of the trauma and all that was happening once we got to the trauma care was that the various medical people around him assumed he was unconscious and we're talking about the fact that he wasn't going to make it and so on. Whereupon he chose to pop in with a comment at that point, which took considerable effort, which was, if they couldn't be more positive, could they please leave the room? Because he was doing everything with his consciousness to remain positive and indeed survived. So,
Wow.
I,
Wow.
Amazing.
I'm aware that it would be very valuable as knowledge to capture some of this. He's a more private person, so I'm hoping to convince him to do some podcasts or something to talk about this story. Another part of that story is that he lives in the present. Now, people pay a lot of money to learn how to live in the present. He lives in the present. But I have a story of what it's like to live with someone who lives in the present. And that's an interesting story unto itself. It's amazing how many of us who are leaders and consultants and so on, we do our, meditation, we do various things, and we want to teach ourselves to live in the present. But what happens when that actually happens? It's
Wow.
another great story.
I want to hear that one.
And the third thing I wanted to talk about was related to the topic of collaboration. And in my mind, there's a question that when we collaborate, who do we collaborate with? And that's not about choosing which people, that's not what I'm talking about. It gets down to the subject of what is a person? Who is a person? Because we are a person in a moment in time. And then if we've learned something, whole new worlds open up and we change because we've learned, even if it's a tiny learning, might be a big learning, it might be just a little learning, but worlds open up that didn't exist in our awareness before that moment of learning. And so I have been thinking about, it sounds common sense to collaborate, but who do we collaborate with? Who is that person? I've had some, I'll pick on you, Lucas. We've had various conversations over time But as I look at you on the screen, and I know we collaborate and intend for more collaboration, but who are you? Who am I collaborating with? Have you changed in the weeks since the last time we talked? And I would say yes. So every time I enter into collaborating, I'm asking myself, who am I collaborating with? And because we're committed to change, as we change in the next moment, even though you're physically fairly similar to who you were the last time, am I really collaborating with the same person? So these are curiosities of mine. So
Yay.
over to Stefan and Petra, who live in the country of my birth.
And mine. And the one that Gilmore just came back to back from a little bit ago, I think.
Yeah, but before we jump into that, I just want to make sure I'm looking at the website for your session on individual health and balance. There's a link there. I just want to make sure I'm sharing the right information. Taya, if you can make sure that you put in the chat or something for all of us. When I go to the page, it shows the foundational module 3 of the Genuine Contact Program around this. I just wanted to make sure I'm giving people the right link to know how to find out how to sign up.
I'll provide another.
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
Thanks.
That'd be great because I want to share it with our community. So that's awesome. And that story, I don't even know. I want to hear more. Like I want to like how can we hear? I mean, can we do just a focused conversation? Because that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Could we do a focused conversation with you around that at some point? Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. It's moving. Oh my goodness. So so great. So hey, Stefan. Hey, Petra.
Hi, we're here since a long pause we took. Now, we've been on the road again to spread change, of course. So we want to tell you about two important venues we visited or we organized. This one's Change School Summit. We already told you about that on the All Change podcast series half a year ago. And the other one is the Change Days, which took place not in Berlin, but in the middle of the Alp Mountains.
Wow.
Now, the Change School Summit is a big event we invented and now took place. It's an annual meeting. It took place the third time. And this year we focused on the global crisis, such a war in Ukraine and the starvation of hunger in Somalia and the loss of democratic culture, for example, in Italy, where ultra-right governments want to reduce, for example, women's rights, to reduce women to the role of producing more offspring and things like that. So we have a lot of crises and of course the climate crisis. A few days ago, we had more than 85 degrees Fahrenheit here. And this is not normal for Europe in October. No, it's November. It's a bit more cold now, but the climate crisis is the biggest climate. So the Change School Summit focused on these crises, and we brought together more than 80 teachers, students, parents from different schools, and professionals from organizations like nature science research, development research, non-formal educators, practitioners on journalism, on filmmaking, on social street protest, on youth work, fair trade activists, telecommunication businesses, and not-for-profit organizational developments.
Wow.
And we integrated some Zoom calls within this summit to India and to Thailand. So this was wonderful, working together more than 80 people in one room. The meeting venue was a very special room. It was an aircraft hangar converted as an indoor camping. There were classic Airstream caravans and other caravanning and trailing equipments where you can live, you can work in the middle of this scenery. It's kind of camping atmosphere to collaborate on change. So it was wonderful venue. Was in Bonn, near the River Rhine, and well, the joint plans were developed for further development of schools, of course, yeah, and non-formal and formal education. And we networked action of different actors to implement sustainable development goals. So the second event was the Change Days in the mountain region in the north of Italy, where it was held this year under the motto, Discover the Mountain Within. For me, it was interpreted as self-clearing to the question, what is hindering your change? And over 3 days of conference, there were a lot of practical experiences from change process from all over the world, for example, from the US, from Canada, from Australia, from India, from Spain, from Greece, and from many more countries. This conference venue was very special too. It was a former Italian and later American military barracks. And these barracks were no longer needed, hopefully. And it was in the middle of the Alps. This barracks were transformed by artists, by social entrepreneurs into a place of local and international cooperation. And we were very moved by the quality of cooperation and networking, which were brought together by Holger Nauheimer, who is part of the Change Library too. And after that, we did not work at all to our chapter Power of Imagination studio, but we worked on the practice. So we had a lot of fun, a lot of travel insights, and we really want to continue to go to the places where change is in practice, not theoretically, but in practice. So this was what I want to tell you. Peter, do you want to add?
May I ask a question before Petra?
Okay.
I may have missed it. Was that conference attended by OD practitioners and HR people, or was it attended by CEOs, business leaders, and the like, or of a variety? Was it a broad variety? That's a very intriguing topic for me.
You mean the Change Days or the Change
Yeah,
Summit?
yeah, your Change Days.
Yeah, there were more change practitioners, not leaders. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. I should add on that my opinion about the Change Days is that most of the change practitioners didn't know about the climate crisis, about the
Global. The importance
of
the
climate crisis, but one
the global goals.
One act was a World Cafe about the transformation of the global 70 global sustainable goals to companies. This was for me very interesting because an international group worked on it to transfer the global goals, or to transfer the global goals to companies. I think it's a very good approach to find out what companies can do or should do in the climate crisis.
Wow. Mm.
And I think it would be nice to transfer it in the Change Handbook or in the Change Library, because it's very important, I think, for the knowledge of change makers.
And we will visit these guys in Munich next month, and we will try to win them for the Change Library. Oh, let's add, the Change Library was already in the talks present in Italy. Yeah, they already knew about that.
The first,
But they thought it will come. They didn't know that it's still already in practice.
You're muted, Steve.
That's really cool. I think it's making me think that Taylor, you're going to love this. I'm keep thinking that we need to change the Change Library, actually just call it the Change Library, and then have the Collaborative Change Handbook as a printed version, so we can have different print editions of different things off of it. That was just thought. But the other thing I'll tell you something that's really cool. So I'm a part of, and this is related to what you're interested in and what you're talking about, Stefan. I'm a part of the AACSB Accelerator for Societal Impact. The AACSB accredits the leading business schools around the world, and their intention is to shift the focus in business school education from profit to the triple bottom line. And now people sometimes say, hey, there's another framework out there, but that framework is actually different than the triple bottom line. What they want to do is they want to focus on people and the planet, in addition to profit, and have a balanced approach. They're advocating the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 goals. And I'm on a group that's developing the competencies that they're going to use that are called societal impact leadership competencies. What are the leadership competencies for societal impact leaders in business, which will become, if you go to AACSB, it has the leading schools. If you're a business school of any note, you are accredited by AACSB, and it's going to be pushing to, it's going to be driving, pushing, and it's connecting with all the faculty. It's doing this engagement process to identify it, and then to be, again, accrediting universities, including these competencies, to talk about how they're teaching the students to be sustainable societal impact leaders. So that's really going to be transformative, I think. And it was really interesting to hear about all that. So I think that's pretty cool.
What would be your advice to start collaboration with them?
What's that?
What would be your advice to start collaboration with them, with these business schools?
Just start with me. With me, I would love to help it, because I'm right there with them. I'm a part of the team, the core team. When I saw what they were doing, I reached out to them. They said, "Can you join?" And my dean supported it. You have to make an investment of money and blah blah blah. And I got in. I went to New York City just last week to meet with the group. It was mind blowing. And it's just inspiring to know that things are moving. Things are moving. I'm hopeful. So let me let you pick someone to go next. And so I'd love to hear from some other people.
Yeah, we would like to listen. Carol, what's new? What's best with you?
Well, you teed me up beautifully, because I've been deeply involved since I got involved with this in the Assurance of Learning, which for the doctoral program, which is really around AACSB accreditation. And I've been involved with that since I went back to school to enter this field. The SDGs have been part of my sustainability consortium work for years. Actually, it started as the Millennium Development Goals, and they weren't met. And so they've transitioned to the SDGs. But the part that I'm really interested in that's relevant to what you're talking about, Stefan and Petra, is there's a subset called the Inner Development Goals.
Yeah.
Is not under the auspices of the formal organizations that's doing SDGs, but they're very aligned. And for our field, the IDGs are at least as important, because that says what kind of beingness and
think
what are the
that's-
competencies on a being rather than a doing side
Yeah,
do leaders need. So I think we're in a very deep opportunity for huge collaboration.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited because Dr. Katie is going on a much deserved sabbatical in the spring. And I'm going to teach the collaborative change module for the doctoral program.
yay.
And CCL is obviously integral to that. So how do I engage people to make it most effective for the students is the design challenge that I'm working on right now. And I'm going to co-teach with Al Blixit, who is also one of us. So I'm doing very exciting things, and I'm working directly with Dave Fearon, who, as he said, has become a close friend and is intimately involved with Teo publishing Peter Vale's conjectures. And I too was fortunate to be a Peter Vale student.
Yeah,
I'm looking to have a whole group of people in our world become subjects of his podcast. And we've already had 1 or 2 doctoral students and a few more. And I would imagine that each one of you would be a wonderful candidate.
oh yeah.
So Dave, take their names and get in touch.
I'm taking names, and I'm taking names. No, she mentioned the inner goals. That I came and met Cecile Beatty. Never heard of her before, but I met her through Bill Belden's initiatives, and attended a session. There she was. I said, "Oh, you're very interesting. Let's have a podcast." Now, Cecile put us in touch with the inner group that she's working with, the inner development group, and then she connected with Carol. Now, they're talking. That brings in Joe Raylan. I mean, so what I've learned in the 4 years, particularly the last 2 that I've mentioned, is that the connections among us are so rich that we could live 5 lifetimes and never extract all the lessons that we can learn. I've got to race back and learn more what Birgit's doing. I've got to follow John on the road, see if he's eating well. And it's just a really great time for us to be looking at it, at what works and what doesn't, when it's put into practice.
So I
Awesome.
would have gone to Dave since he's already started.
Well, so Dave checked in already. So you want to pick
I did.
somebody? Going to pick somebody, Carol? Did we have a couple more?
Oh, Gil, what a treat.
Likewise, Carol. Well, I always ask myself, do I want to spend time in a video call with this group, which is always different each video call. And then I am thankful that I did each time. So for some reason, I think of it as a bureaucratic task until I'm in it. And so here I am. And I have spent the last 3 days running tea groups and online tea groups with people in manufacturing plants, and 3 different groups. And I, experiment a lot. I don't know that I'll ever do this again exactly this way, but it's certainly working well enough. But certainly the task is part of the task is to be in the here and now. So I appreciated what you said, Birgit. And is that how you say your name, Birgit? Okay. And it helped me be present. Also, I slip in and out of that, of course. And I think whenever I'm thinking, I'm out of the here and now to some extent. So it's, you know, it's not the easiest thing to stay present. And at least for me. And so that's one of the tasks. And then, you know, absolutely part of the task is to notice your inner, you know, to work on your inner development. Do I know what I'm feeling? Do I know what I think about the people I'm with? How did I come up with that? Do I have any idea really what they mean in this moment? I like the thing that someone said about being with, oh, that was Birgit again, about, of course, people are not the same from moment to moment. So it's an illusion to think that you know someone as they are in this moment based on the past, some sort of past impression. So anyway, I've been enjoying all that. I just got back from Berlin. It's my first time in Berlin, and I had a wonderful time there. Can I screen share? Is that option available to everybody?
Absolutely.
Okay, you
Yeah.
just show a couple.
Especially if
pictures.
you want to share something about my hometown, I'm all for it.
Okay, cool. This is show and tell. Who said it's their hometown?
Me.
Okay, nice. I loved it. Well, hopefully you can see this. Now, I'm curious, those of you from Berlin, if you know Monika Struzel-Heibel, and normally I just call her Monica, so I may be mispronouncing her last name, or Klaus Antons. But that's who I'm with. I'm in the middle there, and we're in front of Kurt Lewin's house in this picture. So one thing I did besides running a tea group for a week with a group of mostly German psychologists who run groups. So they were the participants in this tea group, and which is always interesting for, I think, for people who really are knowledgeable and lead, to let go and just participate isn't necessarily the easiest thing.
Gil, what
and
is
so
what
they-
is the Gil? I'm curious. What is the most impactful way you are able to get people to let go, and to let that particular audience get? Is there a way or technique or something you say? Is there a combination? How do you get them to let go and be there? Is there a way you do that?
Well, there's ways I attempt to do that are mostly successful. Yeah, so I mean, most of you don't know me. I don't know that I've met most of you except for Carol and Steve and Theo. You're sort of the technical guy in all this, so I think you were there last time, but
You can
mostly
call me
you're
the
being
technical guy,
quiet.
that works.
I'm still, but anyway, I apologize if I've met any of you others before, but I'm not aware of it. But so my father was, to make a long story short, was in 1953, met Kurt Lewin's Inner Circle. This is, Kurt. And this is a book I've written about based on his writings, because I think more people need to know his methods and use them for change and to preserve democracy. Someone mentioned far right in Italy. Well, I think it remains to be seen whether we end up far right in the U.S. and anti-democracy. So we've had anti-democracy since the European colonization began in Virginia. That was not an attempt at democracy. That was people that wanted to send wealth to the king and maintain a very rigid social structure. But anyway, that's a whole different story. While I'm there, that's the part of my next book, which is coming out in December, Diversity Without Dogma, which is based on Kurt Lewin's methods of addressing racism and prejudice and social change. A lot of his effort was around those topics, and he did some great experiments to help people change prejudicial thinking. And the T group was a result of that. That was a method for it. So back to your question, Steve. What Dad learned early on from Kurt Lewin's Inner Circle, Lippitt and Binet and Bradford, Lewin had passed away before 1953, of course. And so Dad was in a T group in 53. And what they did was different than what a lot of people do now. If you've ever been in a T group, it's more up to the participants to figure out what to do, complete ambiguity, and then there's interventions that are offered over time to help them learn. But what we do is more the original design, I think, which is that there's training. And so we start with training, Steve. So, I mean, one thing I do is I try to be totally transparent about what the intention of the T group is and how I intend to lead. And also part of part of the learning process is for people to, if they are unhappy with the leader, to tell them, and to be part of the process at times, especially if people are willing to work on their authority reactions. And so I just try to be very clear about, here's where this came from. Here's the way I'm planning to lead it. Here's the task I'm asking you to do. And then I help people do the task. And if people, in this case, I said, this is hard. I think it's hard for a trainer to just be, instead of trying to stay separate and just evaluate, and or just be a trainer. Like, I'm going to focus all on others. I'm not going to think about myself and my own emotions. And so that's all I know to do, is to be transparent and then to have a clear process. And it worked well. There was one guy who was 79. He was retiring that week, Klaus. And he was, right in there mixing it up and doing the T group very differently than he had ever heard of it. I mean, their design generally was, there's 90 minutes. You don't say anything as the trainer. Maybe later on you give some information about the group dynamics or something, but it's quite different than what I do. That my father really designed based on his experiences of Lippitt and Bradford and Binet. So anyways, that's what I've been up to. It's a fun time. I'm 63. As far as I can tell, I'm gonna last a while, unless like in a cartoon, a piano falls on me or something. So I'm hoping. But Dad's 94 and he's still, able to teach. One thing online stuff has done is created possibilities for reaching people that you're not with, and so that's a good thing.
Wow.
Gil,
Yes, Carol.
you cannot not mention Leos and how impactful this has been and what your intent is. 'Cause
Okay.
you've definitely been up to that in the recent past.
Well, that reminds me too, Carol, that if one thing you want to get at inner and outer, because the inner development is to know oneself and to manage oneself and so on, in a sense, but to be, just be, and the outer development is to have behavioral skills, like paraphrasing. I mean, there are skills that are helpful, I think, and to have ways of thinking about interactions. So anyway, if you want a T group thrown into your course this year, I'll jump in my car or run an airplane or something.
Well, we've already started the conversation about integrating what you're doing into the whole DODC program. And Steve teed that up, and we'll continue that. You and I had a date to do that in a few weeks.
Cool.
But I think you need to tell this group
Okay.
about Leos, because it's really relevant and important.
Well, in 1969, my father started an adult learning program in the basement of a church, and on a bunch of beanbags. People all sat on beanbags. Yeah, I helped clean.
Beanbags, yeah.
Yeah, beanbags. I was one of the custodians. I helped clean the beanbags. Anyway, and it was T group based. So he started a 2-year T group based program that then quickly evolved into a master's degree program. And at the time they didn't call it OD. They what was it called? I'm forgetting now. So no, it wasn't that. But anyway, so it was a 2-year program. It was basically an OD program. It was called it became the Leadership Institute of Spokane at first, which is where it was located. And then later it moved to Seattle. So the whole time it had the acronym LIOS, LEOS. And up until like 3 years ago, LEOS was an active graduate program with a family systems therapy side, and which is really integrated into my own OD, family systems thinking, especially Bowen and Friedman. And then on the other side was OD. And and it was always integrated into for working adults. So it was a weekend thing. You'd go for a retreat. There used to be a great power and conflict weekend where all the participants were divided into 3 groups. And I went through this as an undergraduate, actually. I audited it. But anyway, one group, which I was in, we had all of our shoes removed and our coats. It was in the winter in Idaho in the woods. And we were only fed cold oatmeal. And then the middle group was the middle class, and they were to like be go-betweens and to, run, kind of maintain order and try to keep peace. And then there was a small group that was the upper class that got to live in the resort and eat huge banquets and issue degrees. And this went on for 3 days where we were negotiating to try to have better improved conditions for the lower class. And so it led to all kinds of emotional reactions and people working conflict and so on. It was great stuff. Now, I don't know if we're going to ever recreate that way. At one point, somebody like broke a window to get in and try to get some of the food, and so it got a little out of hand one year. But it's a T group based graduate school. Every module there's T groups throughout the process, and then there's theory, which is also how the original T groups were. In Lewin, what Lewin had was a training group. That's the T. And so there was training, and then there was T group time. And then there was more training. And then there was T group time, where you just were learning from your immediate experiences. So that's LEOS, and my brother in particular, my younger brother, Chris, who's 59, is starting it back up. And I'm lead faculty in it. And one thing we'll integrate is it'll be T group based again, and we'll have Kurt Lewin more clearly taught in it this time. It was a funny thing. Dad was a great practitioner of Lewinian OD, and he taught me that, but I never read Lewin, neither did he, until one day when I realized that there was a lot of people saying, Lewin's, it's all too simple and it's outdated and we need new things. And I kept reading this stuff, and I decided to challenge that. And so I started reading. And that's when I decided to write a whole book, because I think, the critiques are always that I've seen based on, it's too simple. The critiques are too simple. So, and the stuff works. I've been doing it all my life. I just didn't have full knowledge of the theoretical basis. But to help people.
Gil, I'd like to pick up on that where if you could pick up that for the next conversation, because I'd like to hear some more. And also Carol will follow up with you, because we do want to see what kind of T group connection we can make into our program around our students and use of self and those kinds. Because we have a whole use of self class that we do with that. But I've been advocating some other things. So we'll talk some more about that. So
Cool.
to wrap up, we have Lucas hasn't had a chance to go. So Lucas, I thought maybe you could wrap us up by maybe reflecting on what you heard. And if you want to share with us a couple comments, maybe of how you're doing or anything you want to share as well. But I'd love for you to sort of wrap us up here today.
I appreciate the invitation. I just appreciate being on this call and learning so many interesting things. Birgit, back when you were speaking about who are we collaborating with, we could talk for hours about all these topics. Gilmore, hearing how close you are to T groups, which I've heard about for many years. KikoChat is an online platform that lets you do more with Zoom. You want to run 10 Zoom meetings at the same time, 100 Zoom meetings at the same time, bring in all the collaborative tools. And we created a new product that is just for a single Zoom meeting. Bring your own Zoom meeting and then tie in any collaborative tools that you want. Costs $264 a year, and everyone here can get it for free using that discount link. If you use the discount link, I just ask that you let me know what you think.
What does that do again? It looks delicious. Tell us what it is, when it does
The
again.
first link at the top is a few videos that show you like 2 minutes, like how to use it. And anytime you're doing something on a single Zoom meeting, but you're using other links that you're sharing in the chat, like here's the links to our notes tool, here's the links to our whiteboarding tool. Kiko Pro lets you combine Zoom and those other tools together, make it a little easier. Steve, you asked me to summarize the great knowledge that people have here. I can't do it. I actually can't do it. It's uncontainable, the impact that people here are having. They were just impressive people, and I am grateful to be among you, and I look forward to being on the next call.
Awesome. Well, Lucas, what I'd like to do is if you want people to be playing with it, we have our full program here, the DODC program. We also have our community in, the book and all that kind of stuff. If you want to create some type of early adopter program, I don't know if whatever you want to make available, however, price wise, price point. If you create that for me, I'll post out to all our students.
Lucas had shared that before. I'll make sure that gets to you, Steve.
Yeah, but I just need to have what to copy and paste in and what to say. We can put that out. We can put that out through our social media and those kinds of things. Just let us know how we can best help with it. I think it's great, and I'd even work to try to get our university to think about adopting it for the faculty or something like that. So, but just let me know how best to help with that. That's awesome, awesome stuff. I love it. What you just described is very simple, elegant, and very useful.
Thank you.
So,
Steve.
hey everybody, thanks for a super day. We'll meet back again. Let's come back together, and this was a perfect size and way we did it for this group. I have stuff always queued up to talk about, but the first priority is for us to talk and connect and share. Second priority is look at some other stuff. If we had a lot of people showing up, we'll do small groups and then come back to the whole, and do stuff like that. So, we'll keep it simple, but we'll make it work. We'll figure it out as we go, and look forward to seeing you all again. Bye for now. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.